Hello, this is part 4 of Who Runs This Place? Written constitutions versus political conventions and steering groups. Now, as I talked about regulatory capture by banks and of other powerful institutions by powerful power groups within the system of governance and economics. I also should mention that this has happened many times before. Um, you know, they said that Caesar, one of the reasons he was assassinated was because grain merchants and moneylenders didn't like that too much power was going to back to the executive. Now, that's not to say that because Caesar committed genocide, that it was wrong to assassinate him because it was unconstitutional what he was doing because he should only have been consul for 1 year. But it just shows that these things have happened before. If you look at the Medici family, right, who were bankers but they were also gangsters, um, this idea of banking um, came from their ideas of banking came from fraud. They introduced fiat money, which is in essence a fraud because although it takes although that you deposit gold down and then you're given receipts out, there is a convention that the banks may, even to this day, may leverage out 10%, 10 times as much holdings in paper money as they may through as they hold. For instance, once you deposit money into your bank account, the bank, without telling you, or you receiving any return in proportion to the amount of money that you're keeping in there, they may invest your money on the open money markets in whatever business that they choose. Now, who is responsible for if that business goes bust? Or if they lend that money out to somebody else and that person can't pay, which is one of the reasons for the financial crisis, is that bank responsible to you to give your money back? Well, no, it's not. The person who's responsible for that money is yourself because you are the taxpayer, and the lender of last resort is the Bank of England. Now, the Bank of England's majority share will be held by the government, hopefully, in government bonds. Now, the Bank of England buys up government bonds with the returns it gets from the banking system. So, in effect, the lender of last resort is yourself, and if the bank goes bust, the bank doesn't owe you any money. The only protection you have is that the Bank of England extends protection of most people's bank accounts up to so many thousands of pounds. I think it's £5,000. But if you've got any more than that, you're in the river without a paddle, so to speak. The problem is with as the Medici invented central banking, they quickly rose to the top of the Renaissance Italy, and they became the popes, the governors, and of certain cities, states, and this was one of the reasons why those city-states became prosperous and rich. Now, they also invested that money in artwork, and that's also why we get artwork. But that doesn't take away the fact that they did it through basically being a steering group. So now let's deal with steering groups. Well, if you have a written constitution, and the written constitution says the laws of the state shall be written as such because this is backed up by the will of the people. Well, that really does depend on the will of the people. If the people haven't got the will or the understanding to read the constitution and make sure that their government enforces it, is it really the law of the land? I would argue that no. In a realist world, power is what really makes the rules and money really makes the rules in the land. And laws really are, in effect, in today's world, have become wishes. There is a certain amount of power, and laws are observed by the majority of people. But how many people really know what the laws of the land are? In the Middle Ages, they did. There was a king. His laws may or may not have been constitutional. And although most people were illiterate, they were involved in the customs of the land and through court cases. This is where the expression is: if I want you to do something and you won't do it, and you're proud that you won't do it, stop being churlish, because churl was the name of the landed peasant, right? Now most people are leveraged out in mortgages. Okay, you don't own the land that you live in, and you don't own your house, right? It's very rare that you finish your mortgage before your death. That's why it's called a mortgage. It comes from the French life debt. Okay, you're not really meant to pay it off. Some people are lucky and they do, through business or through winning the lottery, they're able to pay off their debt. So in a sense, we are less in charge of our own lives than some medieval peasants were. We are tenants, in effect, of banks. Okay, so banks are a powerful group of people, but in the end, banks are only civilians. And at the end of the day, if you look at the Middle East, particularly in Lebanon, and also parts of Eastern Europe and Russia, banks can be extorted too by organised crime. That's the reason why, because those people understand the banking system, and they threaten the banking community because they've got guns and the banking community does not, or at least we're told they don't. That's why banks own and politicians today are getting involved with private security firms. People say that the Bush regime, the Bush government, or the Bush regime, as liberals would say, in the United States, is immoral for getting involved with Blackwater. Well, Blackwater might be some unpleasant Christian fundamentalist people, or mercenaries, as you would like to say, but and it also disturbs me that such armed groups are being created outside of the military, the citizens' military, because that's what it is, even though in the British Army you swear your allegiance to the Queen. But armed groups outside of the state, well, everyone else seems to be doing it. Bin Laden's got his own private army, and he's a billionaire, and that's Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is a private army of the Bin Laden family. And if you think it's just to do with religion, then I'm afraid you're sadly mistaken, because Al-Qaeda's got steering groups as well. They are trying to leverage economic funds out of those countries which they attack. And even the British Army, even the British Army has to work with other armies, such as the Italians, who've paid the Taliban not to attack them. So we're really in a system that's akin to neo-feudalism. That might sound extreme, but people who are billionaires obviously who are law-abiding, pay lots of money in tax, but often they will have smart accountants who manage to let them not pay any tax at all. And also they've got the option of moving to tax havens. When we talk about rich people, we're generally thinking of millionaires, but most people who are rich in the circle of friends who call themselves rich people are multi-billionaires, and some of those billionaires are terrorists and gangsters. That has to be addressed. Okay, now in part 5 I'm going to talk specifically about steering groups rather than just power. Legitimate steering groups.